The story begins as we learn about the Tower of God, where anyone who reaches the top will have their wish granted. We see a girl named Rachel as she runs away, but she's stopped by her friend Bam, who asks her where she's going. So she explains she's going to climb the tower to see the stars, and she tells him to forget about her. He refuses to let her go, but she starts glowing and starts to vanish as the door to the tower opens. Bam thinks he's never going to see her again, when he suddenly hears a voice telling him that the answer can be found at the top of the tower. The door opens once again, and a giant hand grabs onto him. Bam wakes up in a room and is confused by his surroundings, but he suddenly hears the voice again, telling him all visitors are welcome. A mysterious creature named Hedon appears and reveals that he's the caretaker of the tower. He calls Bam by his name, which surprises him, and he asks Hedon about Rachel, but he explains that all his questions will be answered once he reaches the top of the tower. Hedon wonders if Bam wants to take the test to enter the tower, and he uses his staff to take them in front of a cage, which has a monster trapped inside. He tells Bam that for him to pass the test, he has to enter the cage and break the black sphere in the middle. He warns him the tower is dangerous, but Bam rushes towards the monster. As he's about to enter the cage, he's stopped by a girl named Yuri, and she starts speaking in a foreign language. Her companion Evan arrives and tells Yuri he can't understand them, so he takes out a ball and a light surrounds Bam, who realizes that he can now communicate with them. The light turns into a floating ball called a pocket, and Evan tells Bam it's not only a translator, but also their lifeline in the tower. He asks Bam to turn toward the pocket and say invisible mode, so he gives it a go, and the ball disappears. Bam is shocked, and Evan says it will return to its original form if he says visible mode, but Yuri sees his reaction and realizes he's an irregular. He has no idea what she's talking about, so she explains that an irregular is an outsider who entered the tower by opening the gates on their own, but she mentions he looks weak for an outsider. Evan worries about getting involved with an irregular, but Yuri asks him if he cares if Bam gets eaten by the monster. Hedon interrupts them, mentioning that even if she's the princess of Zod, if the king finds out about what they're doing, they will be executed, but Yuri mentions the king will only find out if he tells on them. She wonders why he has given Bam such a difficult test, because even people on the 20th floor have difficulty dealing with this monster. She asks him if he thinks Bam has a hidden power and is going to transform, but she doesn't believe he's anything special, but she does call him handsome. She requests Hedon to lower the difficulty of the test, but he refuses, and Bam believes he can clear the trial. She thinks he's going to die, so Hedon proposes she give him her Black March if she wants to help him. The Black March depends on the user, so it could just be a lump of lead, or a blade capable of cutting through anything. Evan is against this idea, because it's a weapon only for a princess of Zod, but she decides to lend it to him. She takes out the sword, and gives it to Bam, and even though he's hesitant to take it, she convinces him to accept it. He promises to return it after completing the test, but she tells him to focus on staying alive. Bam enters the cage, but the monster rises into the air and is about to attack him, so Yuri tries to interfere, but Hedon stops her because he will fail the test if she helps him. But the monster eats Bam, which makes Yuri push Hedon away, but this time Evan stops her. He reveals there's no way to avoid the monster, so Bam did the right thing by jumping into its mouth and attacking from inside. The monster spits him out, and Yuri gets angry at Evan because he didn't tell Bam the path to pass the test. But he explains that even if someone knows the answer, not many would let themselves get eaten. Bam walks up to the black ball and hits it with his sword, but everyone's shocked because it doesn't break, and Hedon says he can't tell them why, but mentions the real test hasn't even begun. Bam remembers his memories with Rachel and keeps stabbing the ball, but it doesn't break. The monster gets up again, and it rushes towards him, as Evan yells at him to speak to the sword, so he asks it to lend him its power. A light suddenly comes out of it, pushing the monster away, and a woman appears in front of Bam, asking him if he wants power to climb the tower. But he says he only cares about seeing Rachel again. She calls him boring, but decides to help him this time, because she finds him cute. Yuri mentions how the sword never lends its power to her, and realizes it was because it prefers men. The ball breaks, and Bam disappears into thin air, as Hedon reveals that he has ascended to the next floor. Evan starts panicking, because he took the Black March with him, but Yuri calms him down, saying they're going to follow him to retrieve the sword. He mentions that they're forbidden from entering the testing area for candidates, but Yuri thinks it's boring to follow the rules. Bam wakes up on the second floor, where a black box announces there are 400 regulars on this floor, and to clear this level, the number of people has to drop to 200 within the time limit. As the test begins, Bam is attacked by a warrior, who manages to pin him down, but he gets shot by an archer, who in turn is killed by a sniper. Bam knows he needs to survive, so he gets ready to attack an enemy in front of him, but a boy named Kun appears, telling him his attack won't work. Bam points his sword at Kun, but he warns him about another enemy behind him. Kun teases the enemy by calling him a talking alligator, which makes him angry, and he introduces himself as Rak. He tells Kun he has no interest in him and just wants to hunt Bam so he can become stronger. But Kun thinks he's just another person allowing himself to be controlled, because he didn't question the higher-ups when they told everyone to kill 200 people. Rak tries to hit him, but he easily dodges his attack, and thinks that maybe what he said was too difficult for him to understand. He says goodbye to Bam, since he needs to find allies who he can climb the tower with. But as he's about to leave, Bam's weapon catches his attention, so he helps him by tripping Rak and making him believe they're running away. He goes after them, but in reality, they're just hiding behind the other creature. Kun asks Bam where he got the Black March, because it's a weapon granted to the princess chosen by Zahad, the king of the tower. So Bam reveals that Yuri gave it to him, and he's looking for someone, so Kun realizes he isn't a regular. Bam follows Kun, and they go to a safe location, where they see on their pocket that 268 regulars are remaining. Kun wonders if Bam has killed a regular before, but he mentions he doesn't remember his past, except for the things Rachel taught him. Kun wonders if she's his girlfriend, but Bam says he belongs to her, so he has to climb the tower to see her. Kun thinks Rachel is his rule, but he has no idea what this means. Kun asks him to become his ally, and reveals that after hearing the rules of this floor, he decided not to kill anyone, but instead find allies among the 200 that survive. Rak suddenly appears behind them and tries to attack them when an announcement is made that the limit of 200 has been reached, and anyone who continues to fight will fail the test. Everyone is told to find 2 allies within 5 minutes, and they will pass the test if they're touching their allies when the time ends. Kun thinks they have to ally with Rak, but he's still trying to fight them, so they run away from him, wondering if he understood the rules, but he explains that he doesn't want to become allies with his prey. Kun sees he has no other choice, so he prepares to kill him and find another ally, but Bam reminds Rak that he wants to hunt him, so they should be the ones to fight. Rak agrees, but Bam throws away his weapon and tells Rak to kill him. But he refuses to attack until Bam uses his weapon, and he doesn't want to pick it up, so Rak absolutely loses it. Kun invites Rak to join them in climbing the tower, saying he will find stronger opponents there, but Rak refuses, and he attacks Kun. The time is about to end, so Kun clings to Rak, and Bam follows his lead, allowing them to pass the test. We see the regulars gathered together, and Kun sees that 120 people pass the test. On the other hand, Rak is still trying to get Bam to fight him, but Kun mentions that if Bam reveals his weapon in front of everyone, they will hunt him down. Kun explains that it will be better for Rak to fight him when he gets stronger, and Rak thinks he's trying to fool him, but his stomach starts growling, so Kun gives him a candy bar. Meanwhile, 2 regulars start arguing with each other when they're stopped by the test administrator named Liro, who mentions that fighting is forbidden in this place. So they immediately stop fighting and realize he's a ranker, but Bam has no idea what this means, so Kun explains that a ranker is a person who has made it to the top of the tower. Liro mentions that too many people have passed the test, so a few of them have to be eliminated. He shoots water out from his hands, and he pushes everyone back with a wall. He calls it Shinsu, saying it's the source of the tower's power, and he explains that the teams that make it through the wall will pass the test. Kun thinks Rak will be able to pass through the wall, but he thinks Bam might struggle. But everyone is surprised that he's already on the other side of the wall. He didn't get pushed back like the others, and offers to go to the other side, but Liro says he passed the test, since he considers luck to be the most important factor in climbing the tower. The others try to get past the wall, and to pass the time, Liro makes a bet with Bam on which person will get through the wall first, with the winner getting to ask any questions they want. They look around, and end up selecting the same person, but Liro still agrees to answer his questions, because it's still impressive to get a tie with a ranker. Bam wonders if Liro has seen Rachel, but he hasn't, so Bam asks him about the irregulars, and he says they're the people who don't follow the rules of the tower. He reveals that the tower consists of 3 sections. The first is the outer tower, which is a residential district. The other section is the inner tower, where they are currently located, and the last part is the middle area, which connects the 2 sections. Most people spend their lives in the outer tower, but a few of them are chosen by Hedon and given permission to climb the inner tower. Bam wonders if this means everyone is born and raised in the tower, which makes Liro surprised, since this is supposed to be obvious, but this makes Bam wonder if he and Rachel are the only ones from another world. Liro mentions irregulars that have entered the tower are usually incredibly strong, but their conversation is interrupted when one of the regulars starts making a scene. He explains that he shouldn't have to fail this test, since he's strong and can even kill a ranker. Liro goes through the wall and covers the regular in Shinsu, telling him it can grant him unlimited power if he can endure it. He reveals they will have to face this level of Shinsu every day on the 30th floor, which surprises the regular, and when Liro sets him free, he falls to his knees. Rak and Kun also go through the wall, and even though Kun's bag gets stuck, he manages to make it through. Liro wishes Bam luck, but warns him not to get too close to Kun. Bam looks at the sky and calls it a ceiling, so Rak bursts out laughing, as Kun tells him it's the sky. He recalls the time Rachel told him that at night, the sky is filled with stars, but Kun reveals this is only an imitation created by using Shinsu, and he doesn't know if the real sky even exists. He asks Bam if he wants to see the stars, but he mentions he was curious about it, because Rachel entered the tower to see them. Kun feels something's off, wondering why Rachel left to climb the tower alone after taking care of him for so long, but Bam says there's nothing wrong with her. The next test begins, and they hear a scream, which makes them think the next trial is going to be dangerous. The teams keep entering the testing area, but Kun and Bam are worried because the tests are ending quickly. A regular offers to give them a hint, but Kun is skeptical about how he knows this because they have no clues. But the regular mentions time is the main clue and reveals the teams that haven't screamed so far have passed the test within 5 minutes, which means they also have to pass it within this time. Bam thanks the regular, but Kun believes he's only trying to use them to test his theory. The regular says being too curious can be harmful, but he mentions how Kun can't help himself after the betrayal he suffered. So he becomes angry and pins down the regular, threatening to kill him, but he decides to restrain himself. Bam and the others enter the testing area, where they see a clock, so Bam believes the regular was right, but Kun wants him to forget what he said. The test director named Yuan reveals that to pass the test, they have to open the correct door, but they only have one chance, and if they take longer than 10 minutes, the test will be forcefully terminated. Kun asks for more clues before the test starts, but Yuan says he has given them all the clues, which makes Bam think this is a test of luck. The test makes Rak lose his mind, since he doesn't like to think, and Bam tries to calm him down. Kun maintains his composure and tries to find clues in the room to find the correct door. Yuan thinks that someone who can use his head has finally arrived, but he believes this test can't be passed by just using one's brain. Kun is confused as to why there's a clock in the room, because they can check the time on their pockets, which makes him wonder about the hint the regular gave them. He starts remembering his past, when there were rumors about him that he and his half-sister Maria were lovers. His other sister was supposed to be chosen as a princess of Zod, but instead, Maria was selected because he helped her, and the moment she was chosen, Kun was abandoned, and his whole family was exiled. As he tries to calm himself down, Rak opens a door on instinct, and they end up passing the test. Yuan reveals that they just had to open any door within 5 minutes, but Kun is confused by what this test has evaluated. Yuan realizes the princess's betrayal has left deep wounds in Kun, so he can't trust anything and isn't able to do anything with certainty. He doesn't think any of this matters, but Yuan mentions the world won't wait for him to be certain, so he needs companions who will open doors without hesitation. We learn that the regular who gave the hint to Kun and Bam was instructed by Yuan because he wanted to know if this would help or hinder them. On the other hand, Yuan questions a test administrator named Quant, wondering if he did a proper job administering the test, because only 3 people passed in his trial, so he reveals that he gave them the first and second tests simultaneously as an untimed survival match. Yuan is surprised by how the 3 people who passed killed the other regulars in 30 minutes, which makes him wonder if there was an irregular or a princess among them. He mentions if the higher-ups learn of this, they both will be executed, but he decides to help Quant and makes a call to Liro. Meanwhile, Bam struggles to buy a drink for Rak, so another regular named Lisu buys it for him, and he also introduces his teammates Anik and Hots. He meets with Kun and Rak, and mentions he feels sympathy for Bam, and is also inspired by him, because they both look like ordinary people. Liro arrives, and reveals that everyone has been given an opportunity to participate in a bonus test, but Lisu mentions how taking more tests isn't good news for them. Liro notes this test is voluntary, but anyone who passes it will be considered to have passed all the other tests, and will be given permission to continue climbing the tower, which makes everyone participate in it. Liro explains that 5 teams will simultaneously participate in a 5-minute game, where they will try to steal each other's crown, and the game will be split into 5 rounds. One member of the team will wear the crown and stay seated until the end of the game, and if they're able to defend it until the round ends, the other 4 teams will be eliminated. New teams will enter the game during the second round, and the moment the person wearing the crown leaves the chair, the game will end. This will result in 5 new teams entering the game, and the team with the crown at the end of the final round will win. This means winning in the early round only hurts your chances, but if a team takes too long to participate, the game might end without them even getting an opportunity to play. He mentions a team from another testing area will also be participating in this game, and Rak can sense that they're extremely powerful. The first round is about to begin, and everyone is told that if they want to participate, they have to press the buzzers in their waiting room before Liro counts to 5. Lee Soo and his teammates decide to participate in the first round, and are opposed by only one team. Onik tells her teammates to stand back, since she alone is enough for their opponents, because she considers them weak. She uses her extending weapon to attack them, and even when one of them punches her head on, it doesn't affect her, and he ends up hurting himself. They realize they have no chance of defeating her, so they try to get the crown instead, but she stops all of them. Lee Soo tells her to give him the crown, because if she and Hots protect him, there's no way they will lose. But she wears it herself, and assures them she won't lose it. The next round is about to begin, and Bam is shocked when he sees a girl on an opposing team, thinking she's Rachel. Lee Soo tries to get Onik to give him the crown, because he's the weakest member, but Liro reveals that once she sits on the throne, she can't leave, or it will result in their loss. Lee Soo is shocked, since they weren't told about this, but Liro mentions a detailed explanation of the rules was posted in the waiting room. The sign-up time for the next round begins, and Rak prepares to press the buzzer, but he's stopped by Kun, so he demands 10 chocolate bars for him not to press it. 2 teams decide to play this round, and Lee Soo notes how one of the teams has a sleeping member. But they say they don't need him to defeat someone as lame as him. The other team starts to attack, and Hots throws his sword into the air, and uses his other sword to blow them away. One of them tries to stop Hots' movement, but he cuts through his knife, as the other member tries to use this opportunity to attack, but he stops because of the other sword. On the other hand, Lee Soo is holding his own against the other team, but he's worried about their member who is sleeping. While he's distracted, one of them attacks him with her knife, and as he steps back, the other member grabs him. He thinks it's the end for him, but Hot saves him, since he has already defeated the other team. Rak wonders why Kun stopped him from pressing the button, so he explains how he would have participated in this round under normal conditions. We learn that the sleeping boy is named Lore, and he told his team to press the buzzer, and he and Kun explain the same thing to their teams, saying the team with the crown will have a disadvantage till the end of the second or third round. But as the game progresses, the number of participants will increase, so no matter how much they fight the team on the throne, they will be interrupted by other teams. In the worst-case scenario, another team will steal the crown, so instead of stopping other teams, the best option is to sit on the throne themselves. Rak believes they should have fought this round, but Bam notes they didn't, because Onik is the one on the throne. Lore's teammates told him they can't take the crown from Onik, but he assured them that he can do it if they lure Hots and Lee Soo away from her. We return to the fight, as Lore wakes up and shoots a massive Shinsu blast at Onik. She dodges his attack, and Lore's team members follow up, trying to knock her off the throne, but she manages to stay on it. Lee Soo and Hots try to help her, but Lore launches another blast, and she dodges it again. He advises her to give up, since he can attack the throne from anywhere, but she gets angry and uses her weapon to attack everyone. She notes that she can also kill all of them from the throne, but Liro is disappointed that she gave in to her emotions. In the waiting room, Bam's weapon starts acting up, which is noticed by Onik, so she retracts her weapon. Lore's teammates use this opportunity to rescue him, and he reminds them if they go into the waiting room, they will be disqualified, but they think it's better than dying in a bonus test. Onik breaks into Bam's waiting room and wonders why he has the black march. She realizes he's struggling to control it, so she says he isn't worthy of it and wants him to give it to her. Lee Soo is confused why she got them disqualified for just a sword, but she reveals that it's one of 13 from the month series, which are only given to the princesses of Zahad. Hots notes that it also smells like Onik's weapon, so she reveals that she's a princess of Zahad. She wants Bam to give her the black march, but he refuses, since he needs to return it to Yuri. Onik prepares to attack, but is stopped by Liro, who wants them to go to their waiting room, since they have been disqualified. Onik proposes a bet for the sword, saying that if they win the game, she will give him her weapon. Bam is against the bet, but Onik mentions she's planning to kill him after the game and take the sword, so it's in his best interest to accept the bet. She says their chances of winning are low, which makes Rak and Kun angry, and they prepare to enter the game. As Onik returns to the waiting room, a girl from another team whispers something to her, making her mad, but Hot stops her, since he doesn't want any more trouble. Kun thinks Bam is amazing, because he didn't give the black march to Onik, but he mentions how Rachel told him never to betray anyone. Bam calls himself useless and weak, but Kun believes this is what makes him special, because even though he's weak, he still kept his promise when his life was on the line. The next round begins, and several teams come out, since this is their best opportunity to get on the throne. They all try to get the crown, but Kun gets hold of it in the blink of an eye, and instead of wearing it, he decides to keep it in his bag, saying he will give it to anyone who can defeat him. Everyone starts attacking him, and even though he manages to block all their attacks using his bag, he throws the crown away. As everyone is fighting for it, Bam sits on the throne, and Kun takes out the real crown, revealing that the one he threw away was a fake. Kun opens his bag, and countless crowns fall out, which makes everyone realize that the bag can create copies. All the other teams decide to work together since they find his trick humiliating. They rush toward the throne, but Rak stops their attack and throws his spear towards them, blowing them all away. The team from the other testing area wonders if they should enter the next round, but they decide to wait. Rak mentions how Kun wanted to show off his bag, but he says he only wanted to show his strength in front of Anik. The fourth round begins, and there are 3 teams that enter, but Kun tells Rak not to fight them because they should conserve their strength for the final round. This confuses Bam and Rak because the teams are planning on working together against them, but one of the teams suddenly starts attacking the others. Bam is surprised how Kun knew this would happen, and he reveals that during the first test, he helped them by carrying them in his bag. He notes that meeting Rak and Bam was unexpected, because the 3 regulars inside his bag were enough to form a team. After the third test, he let them out of the bag and explained the situation, and tying up his hair with a bandana was the signal for them to help him. Rak is disappointed he didn't get a chance to fight, but Kun gives him a chocolate bar and assures him he can go crazy in the last round. Kun says he didn't want to use his allies this early, but they must win this game because he wants to climb the tower with them. Kun's allies defeat the other 2 teams and proceed to disqualify themselves, which marks the end of the 4th round. The last round begins, and Kun is worried about the team from the other testing area because he doesn't know how strong they are. As the round begins, a girl named Warun quickly defeats 2 teams, so Kun asks Rak to deal with her. She attacks him with her staff, and even though he blocks her attacks, she manages to get past him. She's about to reach Bam, but the girl from the other testing area suddenly stops her, and while Kun is distracted by her, a man suddenly attacks him. Kun uses his bag to copy his knife and throws it towards the enemy as Rak fights with another team. The girl who Bam thinks is Rachel stands beside him and assures him they aren't planning on stealing the crown. He tries to confirm if she's Rachel, but her teammate steps in front of him. Rak wonders if Kun has bribed them, but he mentions they're from another testing area, so he didn't have time to do that. Rak headbutts his opponent and tosses him into a wall as Kun throws his knives up in the air to distract his opponent, and he uses this opportunity to land the finishing blow. Rak wonders why the other team is helping them, and Kun thinks they aren't going after the crown, so he thinks they've won the game. Bam asks the girl if she's Rachel, and he wonders why he should climb the tower if he's already found her. Warun continues fighting against the other girl, whose heel suddenly breaks, and Warun uses the chance to rush towards the throne. She gets past the others and hits Rachel with her staff, which makes Bam leave the throne to help her. He throws himself in front of her, and he gets hit by Warun, causing him to bleed. He thinks about how he has disappointed Rak and Kun, but he has to protect Rachel. His body suddenly releases an enormous amount of energy, breaking Warun's mask, and he prepares to kill her. But time suddenly stops as the spirit from the Black March appears, telling Bam he has lost control, so she kisses him, forcing him to fall asleep. Liro meets with Yuhan and reveals nobody won the game because Bam's Shinsu destroyed the crown. He asks Yuhan why he came up with the crown game, so he reveals it was to help Quant, but Liro thinks he had another goal. He thinks the troublemaking trio was acting weird because they didn't chase after the crown, and they even helped another team during the game. So Liro believes a member of their group had previously met one of the examinees, but the rules mention that acquaintances can't participate in the same test, so he wonders if Yuhan's goal was to unite them. Yuhan explains their job isn't only to determine people who are fit to climb the tower, but also to get rid of those who can harm it. Yuhan asks him if there were any people like that in the test, which makes him think about Bam, but he tells him no. Before he leaves, he asks Yuhan if he has ever seen someone who doesn't have a contract with an administrator, but can use Shinsu without any restraint. Yuhan notes that it would be against the tower's law, but knows an irregular named Urek Mizuno who was able to do it. Meanwhile, Bam still hasn't woken up, and Kun is taking care of him, but he's surprised when Rachel visits. She asks him not to tell Bam about her, because she thinks if they're together, they will become each other's weakness. After she leaves, Kun sees Rak trying to check up on Bam, but Rak says he doesn't care about him. On the other hand, Anik gets her hands on the Black March, but the spirit refuses to listen to her, saying she will only talk with a man. So Anik takes it to Lisu, and as he tries to touch the sword, he gets shocked, and the Black March says she'll only talk with someone handsome. As she leaves, the other girl named Endorsi wonders if she knows who the weapon belongs to, revealing that it's Yuri's. She mentions that out of all the princesses chosen during the past 5 years, Yuri is the only one who was granted one of the 13-month series. She calls Anik an imposter, so she becomes angry, and she tries to punch her, but she dodges it. Bam wakes up, and Kun tells him he's been asleep for 5 days, which makes him worried, but Kun says he got lucky. We see Liro explaining to everyone that the next test will begin after they select their positions, and he mentions how the battles fought in the tower are team battles, so their position means the role they take on during a battle. There are 5 basic positions, with the first one being the fisherman, who specializes in close quarters combat. Next are the spear bearers, who fight from a distance, and the third position are the light bearers, who gather and distribute information. The fourth category are the scouts, who investigate the enemy's movement, and the final position are the wave controllers, who use Shinsu to control the battle. Liro explains that they will have to study the positions they're assigned to, and depending on their performance, they may be chosen to fulfill certain positions. Kun wonders what will happen to the people who got hurt, and Liro says it's their own fault for getting injured. But he reveals that Bam has been given the position of wave controller, and since their instructor Yuga is late, their training will begin after 2 days. Kun tells Bam his training will begin the next day, but he's more worried about Rachel. Kun tells him she's fine, but says she isn't the Rachel he's looking for. Kun thinks about how he doesn't want Bam to go through the same thing that he did, so he's determined to protect him, even if he needs to lie to him. Kun notes that if the girl is the Rachel he's looking for, it means she doesn't want to meet him yet, so the only option is to become stronger, so that he can climb the tower with her. Bam takes his class, where Yuga explains that Shinsu is a godlike substance capable of controlling all things, and to use more than a fixed amount, they need to form a contract on each floor. He mentions Lore has already formed a contract, whereas the rest of them haven't, so he asks them to make their pockets visible and close their eyes. He tells them to command the pocket, and as Bam follows his instructions, he sees a giant monster asking him if he wants to form a contract. The monster accepts his request, but mentions that for Bam, it's a shackle rather than a contract. After the class ends, Bam apologizes to Warun for hurting her during the crown game, but she tells him not to apologize because he was also injured. Lore's teammate Ho introduces himself to Bam and thinks they should help each other. Bam is amazed he isn't tired at all after making a contract, so Ho mentions he has been training, but when he gets to his room afterwards, we see that he's exhausted. Bam meets with Kun and wonders where Rak is, so he reveals that Rak was outdone by another regular in the spear bearer test, which made him go into the wild to get stronger. Bam thinks he needs to get stronger too if he wants to have a proper talk with Rachel, when Lisu and Hots arrive with a request. They reveal that in the scout test, they're told to make 9 friends in 1 week. Kun isn't sure if he should help them, because they're friends with Anik, who stole the Black March. Hots notes they have cut ties with her, but Lisu mentions that she was the one who left them. Kun wonders why they would become friends with someone who can abandon an ally, which annoys Hots, and he starts making fun of Kun's earrings. Lisu tells him to stop, because he has caused many others to refuse to be their friends. They're about to fight, but Bam says they should become friends, because he was happy when Kun asked to become his ally during the first test, since he had nothing before that. They go to have lunch, and are noticed by Endorsi, who wonders what they're talking about. So Lisu tells her about their scout test, and Bam wonders if she would also like to become their friend. She says she would like to get close to Hots, but she can't, because love is forbidden in her family. They're interrupted by Anik, who calls Endorsi a princess of Zod, which shocks everyone. Anik notices Bam staring at the Black March, and she tells him she isn't going to return it, but Bam has no intention of taking it back. He wonders if this means Anik and Endorsi are Yuri's sisters, and Kun explains that the princesses are recruited to represent talented families, which means they aren't really sisters. A game is held for the next test, where everyone must knock each other off the platform using the needles they're given, until only 8 are left. Endorsi asks the administrator if there are any safety measures to break their fall. The administrator says there are measures to prevent them from dying, which means they might still get injured. As the test begins, Anik immediately attacks Endorsi, but she knocks her back. She taunts her about how she could never be a match for a real princess, but Anik says there are no real princesses, saying they're all imposters. Meanwhile, Kun takes his light bearer class, where he digs up information about Rak, and sees that he passed his test. He doesn't find much information on Bam and Rachel, and looks up Anik. He sees that after becoming a ranker, she was selected as a princess of Zod, and was given her weapon the Green April, but he's shocked when the record shows that she should be dead. We return to the test, as Endorsi throws away her weapon, and keeps running from Anik, who knocks down the others, until only 9 people are left. She tells Anik to come back with the Green April, because she's no match without it. But Anik throws her needle at Endorsi, and she uses Shinsu to charge in, knocking her off her feet. She tries to follow up her attack, but Endorsi catches her foot, slamming her into the ground, and realizing that she's the child of the real Anik. We learn that the princesses are forbidden from bearing children once they are chosen by Zod, so that the power they have inherited doesn't spread. Dorsey mentions how Onyx's mother committed a crime by having her and spreading the king's power. She doesn't agree with her, but Dorsey thinks she hasn't experienced any hardships, so she wouldn't understand. Onyx becomes furious, and she tries to attack Dorsey, but she keeps dodging her attacks, as she mentions how Onyx got her powers from her mother, while she had to work to become a princess. But Dorsey's heel suddenly breaks, and Onyx uses this chance to knock her off the platform, but she grabs her hand, begging her not to let go. But Onyx doesn't show mercy, pinching her hand, which forces her to let go, but she grabs her leg, and they both fall off. But we see that they were able to survive, and Dorsey wonders if Onyx's mother ever regretted having her, but she believes she didn't. Meanwhile, Bam is in the middle of his Shinsu class, and all the students are trying to break the balloons. Ho is struggling to complete the task, but Yuga praises him, since he has been improving. Bam manages to break the balloons, and Yuga mentions that he still has a long way to go, but he's doing well. Bam thanks Lore for helping him complete the tasks, and Ho is curious about this. So Lore reveals that Bam helped him by getting him a new pillow, and he taught him a trick to break the balloons as a way of thanking him. Kun calls away Bam, and Ho mentions how it's not like Lore to help others. Kun tells Bam about the fight between Dorsey and Onyx, and he calls them stupid because they self-destructed even though they're blessed with great power. They're interrupted by Lisu, who mentions that the deadline of their task is today, but they haven't managed to make 9 friends. Bam wonders if they can do anything to help them, and Kun thinks it will be good for them if they fail, since they will have fewer enemies, but Bam wants to save his friends, so Kun decides to help them. Bam and Hots go to visit the injured Dorsey, who is starving, since she used all her points to treat her injuries. They offer to give her food if she becomes their friend, and even though she doesn't want to do this, she gives into her hunger and signs their form. They apply the same plan to Onyx and successfully complete their task. Lisu and Hots thank Bam for his help, but Kun wants them to thank him since he was the one who came up with the plan. But Hots starts arguing with him, and Lisu thinks they should thank him, so Hots shows his appreciation. As everyone is having lunch together, Dorsey sees Rachel and goes to the washroom to talk to her, asking her why she's pushing away Bam. She refuses to answer, but Dorsey wishes that whatever she's hoping to find at the top of the tower is worth more than Bam. During the wave controller class, Ho wonders if Bam is hiding something from him, but he's more worried about passing the test. After failing it another time, he goes to his room, where he remembers his past, and starts crying, but he suddenly gets a letter, and is surprised when he reads it. On the other hand, Liro is shocked that Yuhan has decided for the regulars to play a game of tag as a test for their positions, but they're interrupted by Quant. He apologizes to Liro, since he had to take care of 3 extra regulars because of him, and he proposes a joint test. Liro announces that the 28 regulars who haven't passed their tests will take part in the tag game, which makes Rak laugh, since he has already passed. He explains they will be divided into 2 teams, and their scores will be based on their individual performance. Yuhan reveals that unlike a typical game of tag, there will be 1 person on each side chosen as the target. Each of them will wear a badge, and the test will take place in an enormous arena. To win the game, they have to make their selected person reach the goal, or steal the badge from the examiner chasing them. If they win by the first method, everyone on the team will get 100,000 points, but if they win by stealing the badge, they will get 200,000 points. But if they lose their own badge, then the team will be eliminated. We learn they are going up against Quant, and Kun becomes the leader of his team. He starts by putting Lisu out as bait, but Lisu thinks Quant won't fall for something so obvious. But Kun is sure that he will, because he's a sore loser. Quant arrives at the scene, but he mentions they haven't learned enough about being a light bearer. He notes that a lighthouse floats around using Shinsu, so if the light bearer operating it loses consciousness, the team will lose its eyes. He quickly knocks out one of the light bearers, which makes the lighthouse fall down, and he mentions that their other light bearer must be with their selected person. Quant approaches Lisu, but is surprised to see the other lighthouse above his head. Anak is standing above it, and she tries to attack him, but he grabs her weapon and pulls her down. Liro is watching the fight, and mentions how Quant gets angry and has trouble holding back even against a weaker opponent. Liro notes that Quant can only use a limited amount of Shinsu in the arena, but he still thinks they won't be able to continue the test. Quant controls his anger and praises their plan, asking them what they're going to do next. They all start running away from him, and he decides to give them a head start, and he also plans to use the stairs instead of the elevator. Liro is confused why Kun came up with such a simple plan when his opponent is a ranker, but Yuhan thinks he has something up his sleeve. The other team is watching the match, and Dorsey asks Bam why he's nervous, so he tells her he can't see Rachel anywhere. Back in the match, Onik uses the elevator to go to the roof, and Lee Soo thinks they have already won the match, but Kun mentions that Quant wouldn't give them a head start without a plan. Quant finally starts moving, so Kun reminds his team that Onik needs 10 minutes to reach the goal, and since they already know he's going to take the stairs, they should at least stop him for 5 minutes. Quant appears in front of them and disappears, causing everyone to panic. He becomes visible, and the team tries to stop him by throwing spears at him, but he dodges their attacks and starts defeating them one by one. One of them tries to use his strength to crush Quant, but he easily defeats him, saying that the ones who are overconfident in their strength will die first. Dorsey tells Bam to be happy the other team is losing, because if they win, he will fail his position test, but he's more concerned about whether Rachel will pass. Kun tells everyone that Quant has defeated the stair team and will soon catch up to Onik, so Lee Soo thinks they should call Laura for help. But Kun reveals he's sleeping on the starting line, and he mentions that during his light bearer class, he found out that Laura is going to pass the test no matter what happens. Liro thinks they're about to lose the game, but Rak believes Kun has another plan, which makes Liro wonder if he copied the badge using his bag. But Yuhan says it's impossible, because he used Shinsu to prevent the badge from being copied or compressed. We return to the match, as Lee Soo meets up with his team, but Quant arrives with him, so Lee Soo tries to stop him, but he defeats them and reaches the bridge. He sees Kun and wonders where Onik is, so Kun tells him she jumped off the bridge to reach the exit. Quant doesn't believe him, because they're too high, and Kun teases him, saying he must be afraid to jump from this height. We see that a few moments ago, as Onik arrived at the bridge, Kun copied his lighthouse using his bag, and hid her below the bridge. Quant realizes what Kun has done, and mentions that even though he turned off the lighthouse's glow, he can still sense its Shinsu. Kun continues to deny this, so Quant grabs his hand, and makes him jump with him, thinking Kun might reveal where Onik is hidden. As they're falling, Kun separates himself from Quant, as Onik uses her weapon to catch him, and she manages to get to the bridge. Liro believes the test is over, because Quant doesn't have enough Shinsu to climb up the bridge, but he's approached by someone who offers to help him. Onik is about to reach the exit point, but is shocked when Quant appears in front of her and steals the badge. Kun takes the blame for the loss, but his team thinks his plan was amazing, and they think the other team won't come up with a better strategy. But we see that it was Kun and Lore who helped Quant get back up to the bridge, which makes Liro wonder why he betrayed his team, but Yuhan shows him the list of friends from the scout class, saying that they are his real team. He notes Kun's main goal was to show his friends how to pass, because they are the ones he wants to climb the tower with, but he believes Quant isn't going to make it easy for them. The next round is about to begin, and everyone is fighting to become the team leader, but they end up selecting Dorsey to lead them. She tells all the fishermen to move together, but 2 of the spear bearers are against this idea, and think they should be the ones to capture Quant. But Hots calls them idiots, and mentions that from seeing the other team's round, it's obvious they can't catch Quant, so this is the best plan to follow. The others don't agree with him, and they threaten him, telling him he's going to help them win this game, but he makes them apologize by taking their spears. Meanwhile, Ho's teammate Serena talks with him about how she doesn't think she can keep climbing the tower, because she can't bring herself to kill the friends she has made. She reveals she was a cat burglar, but she got on a boat where Rancor was present, and her friends were killed. She had lost all hope when Hedon appeared before her and took her to the tower. At first, she killed everyone she met, because she wanted to stay in the tower, but she feels different now, and Ho explains that everything they do is to climb the tower, so there are no hard feelings. On the other hand, Quant starts hunting them, but Dorsey suddenly starts attacking her teammates. She tells everyone about her past, when she lived in the home of fallen nobles. The family was the least significant of the 10 families, so to produce a Princess Azad, they adopted talented girls, and made them compete against each other. Their meals were determined by how they placed in training, with the higher ranks being served fancy dinners, while the lower ranks just received stale bread. Since Dorsey had to eat bread every day, she killed all her sisters, and she got to eat whatever she liked. Dorsey makes fun of them for believing her plan, which makes them realize that her goal is to get rid of all the other fishermen, so she can guarantee that she passes. She tells Bam this is what needs to be done to climb the tower, and if he's prepared to do this, he should meet with Rachel. On the other hand, Hot shares his plan of stopping Quant, so the 2 spear bearers can attack him from the shadows. Quant appears before them, so Hots tries to attack him, but he ends up losing one of his swords. Dorsey keeps beating her teammates, and Bam tries to convince her to stop, but she mentions they're competing against each other in the position test. She thinks they're weak, so they should just give up, but Bam reminds her that she was also weak, and she didn't give up, so she was able to get stronger. She keeps attacking the others, and Bam mentions his dislike for her actions, but she mentions she needs to do it to get everything she wants. As she argues with him, one of their teammates' swords starts to glow, and he uses it to try and blow her away, but Bam protects her. Hots keeps attacking Quant, who dodges his attacks, and he realizes that Quant can kill him anytime he wants. He knows he has to do something while Quant isn't fighting him seriously, so he runs into the dark to try a surprise attack, but Quant grabs him and pushes him into the wall. Hots grabs his arms and tells the spear bearers it's their chance to attack, but we see them running away. They don't think Hots can stop a rancor, but Quant catches up to them and tells them their deaths won't be pleasant because he hates people who are traitors. Ho meets with Rachel and suddenly holds a knife at her, revealing that the letter he received mentioned that Bam would go away if he got rid of her. Liro believes they need to do something to help her, but Yuhan says they can't stop the test no matter what. Meanwhile, Bam tells Dorsey he can't betray others to climb the tower, and he just wants to protect Rachel, but she says it's not what Rachel wants. He mentions he can't change how he feels, so he goes to find Rachel, but isn't able to connect to her. Ho mentions that seeing her lighthouse turn off, Bam will come looking for her, but he's shocked when Quan appears behind him. Bam also arrives, so Ho realizes the letter was a setup. He tells Bam to fight against Quant and show off his power, or else he will kill Rachel. Bam prepares to attack, but Quant quickly pours Shinsu into Bam's body, which makes him unable to move, and Quant tells him if he uses this technique on Ho, he will be able to save Rachel. Quant decides to leave, but Rachel suddenly tries to get away from Ho, and he ends up stabbing her. Bam quickly uses Quant's technique to stop Ho's movements, but it's too late, since the damage has already been done, and she passes out. Bam wonders why Ho would do this, so he notes that he will be able to climb the tower if Bam isn't there, but Bam says he considered him as a friend. So Ho starts crying, saying everyone important to him died before he came there, because he doesn't have power like Bam and Lore. He grabs onto the knife and takes his own life, so Bam cries, but Quant tells him not to shed tears for a traitor. Dorsey arrives, saying she already expected this to happen, and Quant is surprised she came to capture him instead of going to the exit. She mentions she's already guaranteed to pass, so she wants to make things interesting, but Serena sees she's holding the sword of their teammate, so she slaps her. She calls her a traitor, asking her why she showed up, and Dorsey says they must participate until the test ends. Serena is about to slap her again, but she says that if they keep wasting time, then Rachel will die. Before she starts fighting Quant, she tells Bam that if he keeps passing the tests, he's going to experience more pain, but he has to keep moving forward, or else he will regret his decisions. She starts fighting Quant, and she attacks him using the power from the sword, but he dodges her attack. He tries to get close to her, but is stopped by Bam, who uses the technique he performed earlier, and he's impressed that Bam has already mastered it. The fight continues with Bam helping Dorsey, but Quant avoids all their attacks and manages to take Dorsey's jacket, where she had hidden the badge. Dorsey leans her head on Quant, making him believe she has fallen for him, but she reveals the badge wasn't in the jacket, and she has also stolen his badge, leading to their team's victory. Rack tells everyone that Rachel's teammate disappeared while watching the tag match, and Dorsey mentions she doesn't know much about him since he doesn't talk. She notes that when she found him, he was already with Rachel, and Kun tells her not to speak of Rachel in front of everyone. But she believes there's no point in hiding it anymore, since everyone knows Rachel is the girl that Bam has been looking for. We see that before the tag match, Kun found out that only 2 wave controllers are going to pass the test, and Lore is guaranteed a spot. He looks up the other candidates that could pose a threat to Bam, but Warun arrives, and tells Kun she's going to drop out. She warns him about Ho, saying he might lose his mind because of his hatred for Bam, so Kun acts on her advice, and we see that he was the one who gave Ho the letter. Rack starts banging on Kun's door, and as he opens it, he sees that Rack has shrunk in size. Rack reveals this was done by Yuan, because he was rude to him, and he asks Kun to use his bag to make him big again, but Kun says it's not possible. Rack plans on going to Bam, but Kun tells him not to, because Bam isn't going to the next level, since he has no reason left to climb. Bam comes to his room, and mentions that Rachel's stab wound was deeper than they thought, so she won't be able to walk anymore. But he says he will act as her legs, so that he can take her to the top of the tower, and he asks for their help. Everyone gathers at Ho's grave to give him a proper send-off, and Bam thanks Rachel for attending the funeral. She starts crying, saying she abandoned him because she thought he would get in her way of climbing the tower. She tells him to leave her behind, because she's of no use to him, but he says that even though he has made many friends, no one can replace her. At night, Lisu catches Serena trying to leave the tower, and she mentions she wants to give her life another try. She wants to find a reason why she survived, so she gives him her knife, and leaves the tower. Meanwhile, Yuhan sees Yuga secretly talking to someone, and Yuhan calls him Ren. He wonders how long Yuhan has known about him, and he reveals the real Yuga is always 5 minutes early. Rin decides to fight him, and a large snake emerges from the ground, but as it tries to eat Yuhan, a giant eel cuts off its head. Rin is happy he has someone to fight, because he was getting bored, but Yuhan has no intention of fighting one of Zod's rankers. He notes Rin's mission is to kill Anik and retrieve the Green April and Black March. He offers to help him complete his goal, because it's his duty to eliminate all threats to the Zod family. Liro and Yuhan announce the result of the position test, and Bam and his friends pass, but Liro mentions that Rachel has been disqualified due to her injuries. One of the regulars isn't satisfied with the results, and thinks he should have passed. So Yuhan gives him a chance, and mentions that if he can endure this for 1 minute, he will pass the test, but he passes out from the pain. Yuhan is about to reveal the final test, but he's interrupted by Kun, who reveals that he's also not satisfied with the results. Yuhan is confused why he has a problem even though he passed, and Kun says he wants him to let Rachel participate in the final test. Yuhan notes the rules forbid her from participating in her current condition, but Kun mentions that this rule is only for the tests run by them, saying he wants to take the administrator's test. Liro reveals they only have the power to run the tests, but all the tests and rules can be changed according to the administrator's will. Kun says he will take the test with Rachel's participation at stake, and Yuhan warns him the test is difficult, so it will be better if he just takes the normal test. Yuhan wonders how Kun knows about this test, and he reveals it's because he's a member of the Kun family. Yuhan mentions that only an irregular can negotiate to take the test, so he tells Kun to return to his seat, but everyone is shocked when Bam reveals he's an irregular. Bam decides to take the test, so he goes to meet the administrator, as the others argue whether they should help him or not. Liro mentions if they decide to help him, they will get the quickest route to the top of the tower, but will also be known as an ally of an irregular. So Kun decides not to help him anymore, but Rak calls him a coward, and the others tell him to stop acting, because they know he's just trying to provoke them so that they would help Bam, but they're already planning on helping him. Bam returns after meeting the administrator, and reveals he and Rachel have been given permission to take the test. Yuhan mentions the final test will be an underwater hunt, where they will be hunted by net dolphins. He explains that the dolphins use Shinsu to trap fish, so Bam's group will use a bubble made of Shinsu to go underwater. To pass the test, they must be eaten along with the fish and dropped out on the land by the Dolphin Queen. Lisu wonders what their role is in this test, and Yuhan reveals that the barnacle goblins use giant worms to steal the fish gathered by the dolphins, so if Bam's group gets eaten by them, they will fail the test. He mentions that the enemy of the goblins and worms is the striped earth pig, and when the dolphins sense the pigs, they run away, so their job is to ensure the dolphins can hunt freely. He also mentions a monster called the bull, and says they should pray they don't run into it, because even rankers have trouble against it. Bam and Rachel enter the Shinsu bubble, and he says she doesn't need to worry, because Kun's group will take care of everything. Kun knows they can't use lighthouses to search underground, so their best option is to fortify the surface. He notes that Hot's group will watch the goblins' movements, as the spear bearers wait on the high ground for the worms to react. Lisa's group is supposed to watch out for the pigs, but he's left alone by his teammates. Kun wonders why Lisu is helping Bam, and he mentions that Serena said the reason Bam seems so bright is because he still has everything that was stolen from them before they entered the tower, so he doesn't want him to lose what he's got. Hots reports that one of the groups has vanished, and the bull suddenly appears in front of Lisu. In the bubble, Rachel wonders if Bam ever thought this would be his future, but he says that every time he thought of the future, it was being together with her. Meanwhile, the bull goes after the dolphins, so Lisu throws a rock to get its attention, but it ignores him. He takes out his knife and stabs the bull, so it becomes angry and it starts attacking him. It's about to eat him, but Anik and Dorsey come to his rescue, so he thinks they came to save him, but they just want to fight the bull. It attacks them, but they jump away, and Dorsey kicks it to the ground. Anik tells her not to get in her way, and Dorsey proposes a bet where they fight it alone for 5 minutes at a time. If she beats the bull, she will get the 13-month series swords, but if Anik wins, she will become her servant for life. On the other hand, the worms start moving, and Kun tells everyone to wait for his instructions, because if they miss this chance, it will be over for them. The dolphin's net starts appearing around Bam and Rachel, and Kun is frustrated since he can't see what's going on, but one of their teammates named Nair has an idea. Dorsey keeps attacking the bull, but it continues getting up, and it manages to catch her, but she frees herself from its grip. It runs into the dark, and Anik follows it, saying her 5 minutes are over, but Dorsey also follows them, because she thinks she still has time left. A divine sea fish flies across the land, and reveals an underground path, which makes Kun wonder why Nair didn't mention she's an anima who can control divine sea fish. She notes that the divine fish isn't capable of fighting, and can only detect surrounding areas with sonar, but Kun thinks this is still an amazing ability. He wonders if an anima can control other animals like the dolphins or the bull, and she mentions she isn't capable of this, but it might be possible for a ranker. In the Shinsu bubble, Bam reveals that when he faced the administrator, he was asked what he wanted when he reached the top of the tower. He mentions that the first thing that came to his mind was her face, and the second thing was all of them eating together and smiling, but before he could speak, the administrator disappeared. Meanwhile, Hots is noticed by Goblin, and their cover is blown when it's killed by their teammate Pericule. Dorsey finds the bull, but is surprised by its movement, realizing it has gotten stronger. It catches her once again, but this time she isn't able to get away from it and loses consciousness. Meanwhile, Anak runs into Ren and is shocked when he shows her the necklace she gave to her mother. She tries to attack him, but he opens his mouth, releasing monsters which blow her away. She keeps trying to attack him, but he stabs her with his tongue, saying he's disappointed in her. She tries to get her weapon back, but Ren eats it and mentions this would have never happened if she hadn't tried to get revenge. He's about to kill her, but decides to have fun, so he brings out the bull, which has Dorsey in its grasp. Anak realizes he's controlling it, and he reveals the underwater hunt was designed to take care of her. The bull lets go of Dorsey, and Ren gives her the green April, telling her to kill Anak since she's Zaad's enemy. Lisu keeps looking for Anak and Dorsey, but he suddenly notices a strong presence, and Yuri appears behind him. Dorsey takes the green April, and she approaches Anak, but instead of killing her, she gives the weapon back to her. She takes the Black March from her, and they decide to fight together against Ren. Anak makes a tornado around her, allowing her sword to continuously attack, but Ren keeps dodging. Dorsey also attacks with the Black March, and when he tries to evade her attacks, Anak uses the green April to smash him into a rock. Dorsey thinks the fight is over, but Ren opens his mouth and blows her away with a lightning attack. He knocks Anak down, and while stepping on her, he mentions he's going to kill Dorsey as well. But Yuri and Lisu arrive to help them. Ren is confused why a princess is here. He's about to introduce himself, but she ignores him because she notices the Black March. Ren mentions he's there to retrieve the swords on orders from Zaad, but Yuri tells him to get lost. Ren mentions Zaad will be upset when he learns a princess defended an imposter, but this makes her angry because she thinks he's threatening her. The ground around her shatters as she gives him one more chance to leave, or else she will kill him. But Ren gets excited, so he opens his mouth, attacking her with his monsters, but she instantly kills all of them. She gets close to him, and with a flick of a finger, destroys everything in front of her, but Ren manages to avoid her attack. In the Shinsu bubble, Bam and Rachel's hands start glowing, and he mentions that even though the light is pretty, it's still too bright. On the other hand, Rak gets tired of running away from the goblins, so he rushes towards them and jumps right onto one of the worms. Rak keeps blowing away the goblins, but there are too many of them, and Pericule thinks he's going to die. They all suddenly start flying, and Pericule wonders if this is due to him, but Hots tells him to look behind him, and he realizes that Lore has arrived to help them. The striped pigs start coming out of the worms' mouths, which surprises Pericule, but Nair mentions this is all part of Kuhn's plan. She reveals they found an underground tunnel, which the dolphins used to reach the water, and Kuhn realized the pigs must be using the same path. So he told Lore to destroy the passage, which ended up leading the pigs to the goblins. Meanwhile, Kuhn is approached by a family member, so he prepares to fight him, but the boy tells him not to bother, since he can't beat him. On the other hand, Lero and the others see an intruder has entered the testing area, but they don't know who it is. They try to find out who the person is, but the boy with Kuhn presses a button, which turns off their broadcast. Quant gets annoyed, but Yuhan reminds him this test is being held by the administrator, so they can't interfere. Kuhn wonders what a member of the family wants from him, and the boy mentions he can let him see Maria. Kuhn is confused why he would do this, and the boy notes it's fun to make the family angry, since he's also an outcast. He refuses the offer because he isn't climbing the tower for Maria, so the boy wonders if he's trying to rise up in the family, but Kuhn mentions his goal is something bigger. The boy teases him, saying his goals are pretty big for someone scared to pull a knife on him, but when Hots comes to help, the boy realizes that he has good friends, and he decides to head back. Meanwhile, Evan and Yuri's other companion Kurudin try to reach her, but they're met by Yuhan. Evan realizes Ivankel isn't there, because he knows Yuhan wouldn't be able to continue this test if he were present, since an assassin of Zaad has entered the testing area. Yuhan knows their goal is to retrieve the Black March, and he mentions that no matter what happens, he isn't going to let anyone find out about it, so Evan realizes Yuhan let the assassin roam freely on purpose. Yuri keeps beating Ren, but Evan uses his pocket to communicate with her and asks her not to help Anak, so Dorsey says they will get rid of him themselves. He notes that even though he's badly injured, they still aren't strong enough to beat him, and Endorsi tells him that if fighting for a friend is considered treason, she doesn't mind being a traitor. Yuri walks away from him, but tells Kuruten to get rid of Ren, so he comes from the ceiling and uses his hammer to pummel him into the ground. As he's about to die, Ren reveals he has already sent the bull after Bam and Rachel because he can't allow for an irregular to live. Yuri decides to destroy the test, but Yuhan mentions that this will result in Bam's failure. She thinks it doesn't matter if he fails, but Onyx says that it's important for them because they will climb the tower together. Bam tries to attack the bull with Shinsu, but it keeps hitting them, and Bam gets injured. His Shinsu suddenly starts glowing, and he gets eaten by the bull, but he uses his powers to blow it to pieces and falls back into the bubble. Yuri grabs the green April and tells Onyx to get it back from her when she has learned how to use it properly. She also gives something to Lisu to deliver to Bam, telling him to tell Bam to go to the 77th floor. Bam tells Rachel he will take her to the top of the tower, but she suddenly pushes him out of the bubble. She thinks everything is finally over, but we see Heaton watching, and he notes that it's only the beginning. We see that when Rachel entered the tower, she also woke up in the same room as Bam, where she met Heaton. He reveals she wasn't the one the tower was calling, and she begs him to let her stay, since it's her dream to climb the tower, so he decides to give her the same test he gave Bam. She complains that it's unfair, because no one can pass this test, but Heaton tells her to be quiet and witness the birth of a savior. She's shocked to see Bam enter the tower, and wonders why Heaton is calling him the savior. Heaton hides her, so she can watch Bam take the first test, and afterward, he asks her if she understands why she wasn't chosen. He calls her weak, and she still wants to climb the tower to see the stars, but he mentions her real goal is to become a star. She begs him to give her a chance, so he tells her he will allow her to climb the tower if she kills Bam. He wonders why she's acting surprised, because she was the one who abandoned him, since she didn't need him anymore. She mentions Bam has the Black March, so she asks him to give her a weapon, but Heaton gives her a bodyguard. Every time she sees Bam fight, she wishes someone would kill him, because she could never bring herself to end his life. We see Yuhan telling Warun to observe Bam and check whether he's worthy, whereas Rachel is just a bait. Rachel knew she had to be the one to kill Bam, which is why she told Kun not to tell him about her, because she wanted to keep her distance and wait for an opportunity to strike. As time continued to pass, she became scared of spending her points because she thought if she couldn't kill Bam, she wouldn't be able to climb the tower with the points she had. Warun asks her if she has given up on climbing the tower, and she tells her it's still her goal, so Warun tells her to go along with the disturbance that's about to occur. She tells Rachel to create a situation that will allow her to stay close to Bam, but Rachel doesn't understand what she's trying to say, and Warun says she will know when the time comes. When Ho took her hostage, she realized this is what Warun meant, so she decided to let herself get stabbed. Everything went according to her plan, and she knew that eventually a chance to kill Bam would present itself. After Ho's funeral, she asked Bam to abandon her, so she wouldn't have to kill him, but he decided to stay with her. He called her the light in his life, but she thinks she has become so dark that his words don't have any effect on her. She became jealous and started to hate him because he had become friends with everyone. When Bam went to meet the administrator, Yuhan told her it was her last chance to climb the tower. So when she was with Bam in the bubble, she knew something had to be done. As she spent more time with him, she realized he was the one who became a star and that there's nothing special about her. Bam tells her he wants to climb the tower with her, but she knows if she stays with him, she will never become a star. Rachel is spit up on the ground by the Dolphin Queen, but everyone is surprised Bam is missing, so she says they were attacked by the bull, but she passes out. She wakes up in her room, and Warun congratulates her, since everything went according to plan. Meanwhile, Liro tells everyone they thoroughly examined the area, but couldn't find Bam's body, and he believes he might have been eaten by a fish. Pericule wonders what the test results are, but everyone tells him to shut up. Liro mentions they all passed, and they will contact them later to inform everyone about what will happen next. Liro meets Yuhan and wonders what he did to Rachel, but Yuhan says she made her own decision. Hots thinks that they owe it to Bam, so they decide to climb the tower with Rachel and take her to the top of the tower. On the other hand, Liro quits being a test administrator and tells Quan he's being fired as well. He asks Quan if he wants to come with him and reveals he will climb the tower to find the truth. Yuhan notes that everything has gone according to their plan because all of Zod's people believe Bam is dead. But in reality, we see Warun going to see Bam, who is alive and protected by Shinsu. He wakes up, wondering what happened to him and Rachel, but Warun reminds him she was the one who pushed him, and Warun tells him he has the potential to become the savior and god of the tower. She notes that if he wants to understand Rachel, he needs to reach the top of the tower, and she offers to train him. He thinks that the answers aren't at the top, but decides to climb the tower and search for the answers himself. Yuri returns to her home, where she receives a grand welcome, but she mentions she doesn't care for it. She wonders where her sister Refalista is, but she's interrupted by another princess named Mashchini, who tells her she should quit being a princess if she doesn't like such welcomes. She congratulates Yuri for successfully capturing the Green April, and she thinks it's too great of a responsibility for her to handle 2 of the 13-month series weapons since she's a child, but Yuri calls her old, and says she should give her weapon as well. After that, Yuri meets with Refalista, and she also congratulates her for getting the Green April, but Yuri is sick of everyone saying the same thing to her. She notes that since Yuri already has 2 of the weapons, she should try to collect them all, but Yuri has no interest in them. Yuri asks her for a favor, and she knows she wants her to find Bam, even though she thinks he's dead, but Yuri believes that someone who earned her respect won't die so easily. So she agrees to look for him, but also wants something from her in return. 6 years later on the 20th floor, a boy named Wangnan thinks about how regulars who have been allowed to climb the tower are retested on this floor. They need to get a rank of at least E if they want to continue climbing the tower, but due to the difficulty and the high fees of the test, the 20th floor has become the home of regulars who have given up on going any further. He runs into a boy named Nia, and as he picks him up, he thinks about how the floor is filled with monsters who feed on the dreams of the losers. He goes to take the test, and he has ambitions to become king of the tower, but a girl suddenly attacks everyone with fire and defeats them. Wangnan returns home and takes a bath, but he's angry at the girl because she's the reason that he failed the test again. He thinks about making her work in the kitchen all day after he becomes king, but he's suddenly interrupted by a man named Kim, who wants his money back. Wangnan tries to get away, but he gets caught, and Kim notes he can't run from them because they know everything about him. Kim wants the money he lent to him for taking the test, and Wangnan promises to return it, but Kim knows he can't get such a large amount of money, even if he worked 100 years at a normal job. Kim decides to give him another chance, but he wants him to sign a contract that allows him to trade his organs. Wangnan doesn't want to sign it, so Kim says that if that's the case, he better pass the next test, or else he will be paying with his body. As they are about to leave, Nia comes to deliver his food, and Kim pays for it before leaving. While eating ramen, he wonders why Nia is delivering food, so he mentions he likes making ramen. Wangnan wonders why he isn't taking the test to advance to the next floor, and he mentions he has already taken it, which makes Wangnan realize he's also in debt just like him. But Wangnan tells him to never give up, because the difference between people living on the top of the tower and the people on the 20th floor is that they never stopped working. Wangnan goes to take the test once again, and the first exam is a 30-minute survival challenge, where they are allowed to attack each other, and everyone who is still standing after 30 minutes will pass the test. The door is about to open, and Wangnan tells himself it's his last chance, so he needs to give it his all. The door opens, and Wangnan rushes into the arena, but we see Bam, who has already defeated all the other participants. They start to disappear, and Wangnan begins to panic because he knows that if he loses, he will also have the same fate as them. So he tells Bam he's pretty good, but he can't fight everyone who comes through the doors, and tells him he should conserve his strength. He introduces himself and asks to work together, but Bam doesn't say anything and just sits in the corner. The next participant appears, and Wangnan prepares to attack him, but he's shocked by how big he is, so he also convinces him he shouldn't fight. Wangnan thinks they will attack the next person, but when a small girl appears, he also makes her sit with them. Wangnan is certain they will attack the next person who comes through the doors, but it's a woman who already knows the girl, so they add her to their group. Wangnan is confused, because tests aren't supposed to be so carefree, and he thinks they should thin out the competition. He hears the girl mention everyone is nice to her, and he tells her if she wants to succeed, she shouldn't get friendly with them, because he has seen people get to the 20th floor with the help of others, but once they become useless, they are thrown away. The last contestant named Han arrives, and he immediately realizes the strategy they're using, but he thinks it would be better for them if they eliminate the 2 girls, because the next task may involve teams, and they will be a liability if that happens. He tells everyone to vote if they agree with him, but no one votes in his favor. Wangnan calls another vote for the removal of Han, and they agree to vote him out, but Bam interferes and says there is no need for a vote because all of them are going to leave. Han summons his spear and notes he isn't going to give up without a fight, so Bam attacks him, but he dodges it. The other man named Horang tells Bam that no one on the 20th floor is going to be easily defeated by him, but Bam mentions he will just make them all fail. Han shoots a lightning attack at them, but he apologizes to Horang and says he was aiming for Bam. Horang and Bam start fighting, but Han shoots at them again, which makes Horang realize he isn't attacking him by mistake. He's about to attack Han, but they're both blown away by Bam, and Wongnan realizes he's a wave controller. They are shocked seeing the crest on his robe, because it's from the organization called FUD, which is the group that opposes King Zod. Han knows he can't defeat Bam on his own, so he tells Hwoarang to hold him so he can land his attack. Hwoarang rushes towards Bam and tries to punch him, but he dodges all of his attacks and punches back, but is surprised that a shield protects him. Hwoarang manages to hold Bam in place, and Han fires his attack, but Bam gets free and counters it with his own blast, which blows Han away. He also blows away Hwoarang, and Wongnan tells the others to run from him because only 20 seconds are left until the test ends. Bam is about to catch Wongnan, but hearing him say he wants to climb the tower makes him think about Rachel, and Wongnan uses the opportunity to attack him with his bombs. Bam falls to his knees and starts coughing blood, which shocks Wongnan because he wasn't affected by the stronger attacks earlier, but his weak bombs manage to stop him. Han yells at him to attack again, so Wongnan throws another bomb at him, but as the smoke clears, we see Bam is protected by a strange power, and he starts to heal. He prepares to attack Wongnan, but the time runs out, and any fighting will lead to a disqualification, so he decides to leave. Bam and the others arrive at the testing area for the next exam, but they need to wait for other regulars to arrive since they're the first ones there. Wongnan hopes the participants come one by one so they can defeat them easily by working together, but the woman Goseng doesn't think it would be a good situation because they could turn out to be strong like Bam. The girl Miseng offers chocolate to everyone, and even though Wongnan refuses to take it, Goseng feeds it to him by force. She also gives it to Bam, which scares them, but she notes her parents told her to be nice to people who are alone. After a while, the other regulars start arriving, and Wongnan is surprised to see that Nia has also made it through. He sees the girl named Yiwa, who defeated everyone in his last test, as she argues with another participant. Wongnan wonders who the guy is, and Goseng thinks he's jealous of him because he has a cute girl beside him. But Wongnan tells her to look at Yiwa's hairband, and she's shocked to see that Yiwa is from the Yeon family, wondering what someone from one of the 10 great families is doing there. Wongnan looks around and is shocked to see Kim, who notes he's also a regular and is trying to climb the tower. Wongnan wonders if he quit his loan sharking job, but Kim says he's a money lender, telling him to watch what he calls him. He tells Wongnan that the man beside Yiwa is named Prince, and he's the son of his company's president. His father bribed the examiner and fixed his test, along with hiring mercenaries to help him get to the 20th floor. Kim points out the strongest among them, who is rumored to have beat Hots, nicknamed the Devil of the Right Arm, which Hwoarang finds interesting. He goes on to talk about Yiwa, who he thinks is even more impressive, because she burnt every one of her opponents during the last test, but still failed, so she ended up borrowing money from them. Kim brags about how impressive all the contestants from his company are, which is why he couldn't waste such an opportunity to take the test. Wongnan wonders why he's telling him all of this, so Kim notes it's to warn him, because Prince plans on destroying all of them in the next round. The examiner named Love arrives, and he tells everyone that the next round will be a physical strengthening test, using a Shinsu measurement device. He explains that when they strengthen their body with Shinsu and touch the device, their score and rank will appear on the screen, but only 8 people are going to pass. Wongnan steps up to take the test, punching the device, but we see that he is 10th, so he thinks he's finished, because only 8 people can advance. Meanwhile, Prince gets bored, so he makes a bet, saying that the person who scores the highest will get Yiwa, but she gets angry and tells him he can't do anything like that to her, just because he lent her money, but he gets her to agree when he mentions that if she comes first, she will be free. Hwoarang approaches Prince, and tells him his behavior is upsetting the other regulars, but he doesn't care and tells Hwoarang to get lost. Hwoarang steps up to take the test, and he scores over 6,000, which makes him first place. But Prince's mercenary Rob Devil takes his turn next. He transforms his arm, smashing the device, and he gets the new top score. Yiwa is up next, but as she goes to the machine, she accidentally trips and hits the machine, which makes Prince laugh, but she still beats Rob Devil's score. She thanks Prince for letting her take the test for free, and she notes he can't climb the tower on borrowed strength, but she's shocked when he beats her score, and he tells her that they are the ones who are borrowing his strength. Han starts laughing, and tells him he shouldn't be so full of himself, because Bam is clearly the strongest person there. Bam takes his turn, unleashing his Shinsu, and Love is surprised to see the FUD crest on his cloak. Bam scores over 100,000 points, and the test comes to an end. Wongnan thinks it's over for him, but Love tells Bam to choose 7 people he wants to take the test with. Prince gets angry, wondering what the point of the test was, but Love says it was to determine first place. Wongnan thinks Bam wouldn't choose someone like him, but he can't give up, so he begs Bam to pick him. Prince thinks Wongnan should just take the test again, but he knows he won't get any more chances. Before Bam can choose, Han also begs him to be selected because he needs to advance to meet his daughter, but Wangnan thinks he is clearly lying. Everyone asks him to choose them, but Yua tells them to stop. She mentions that all of them are there for a reason, so Bam should select his teammates based on their skills. Wangnan gets angry since she's acting like she has already been selected, but Yua thinks it's a given he will choose her since she's from the Heon family. Bam tells Love he doesn't want to choose anyone because he thinks he alone will be enough for the next test, which shocks everyone. Love notes that the next test must be taken as a team, so he needs to choose, but Bam doesn't think anyone there is worthy of being on his team. Yua gets angry, and she insults him for wearing a fake FUD crest, but he mentions it's real, and his goal is to kill Zod and his family, which is why no one can be on his team. Love proposes a game to play with Bam, saying that if he wins, he will be allowed to take the test alone, but if he loses, he will need to follow the rules. Bam agrees to it, and Love tells everyone to take a break while the game is prepared. Wangnan goes to his room, where he wonders what will happen next, but he's happy he gets to share a room with Nia, and they go to take a bath. Meanwhile, Yua shares a room with Bam, and she knows if word gets out that she's working with a FUG member, her family name will be disgraced, but she also can't afford to fail the test. She thinks Bam is a girl, so she offers to take a bath with him, but she's shocked when he goes to the men's bath. After taking the bath, Wangnan starts to panic because he can't find his ring, but Bam picked it up, and he sees it has Zod's crest on it. Wangnan says it's just for fashion, but Bam gives it back to him and tells him he shouldn't lose it if it's important. Meanwhile, Love goes to the test director Augustus, and he tells him he's going to get rid of Bam since he's a member of FUG. But Augustus tells him they must follow the rules, and he can't harm Bam over a personal grudge. Love refuses to agree, so Augustus tries to force him to listen. Wangnan and Nia become bored since there is nothing to do, and he wishes there was at least a TV in the room. Yua wonders if Bam wants something from her, and he asks her what he could possibly want. She mentions he might come after her body, but he notes he has no interest in such things, which makes her angry, and she promises to kill him in the next round. Wangnan and Nia ask Horang and Han to play cards with them, and as they go to invite Miseng, they see a woman giving her candy. Han wonders where Goseng is, and she mentions she went to buy drinks. The woman notes she works at an orphanage, so she wants to reduce the number of sad children as much as possible, but Han tells her to get lost. After she leaves, Han tells Miseng she shouldn't eat the candy because there is no telling what kind of things are in it. Wangnan wonders why he's acting like a nice person after he tried to get her to drop out, but Han tells him to shut up. Miseng starts crying, but Wangnan tells her to play a game with them, which makes her stop. After playing for a while, they decide to stop, and Goseng wishes they could leave the tower and live together, because at least they would be happy. At night, Love announces the game is about to start, and he tells all the contestants to use the remotes in their rooms to select a leader and a gatekeeper. The leader is allowed to recruit more members or steal other rooms, and additional rooms captured by team members will be transferred to the leader, while gatekeepers are only allowed to keep rooms. Leaders can transfer the ownership of the rooms using their connectors, and he notes no one can leave their rooms with their remote. So one member needs to be in the room at all times, and the sixth room they need to acquire is 608, which happens to be Yua's room, so the first team that acquires 7 members and 6 rooms will win. He reveals the different rules for Bam, and tells him he has his connector, so for him to win, he needs to take his connector back, and then acquire the room from Yua, but he also wins if there are less than 7 people remaining at the end. The test begins, and Prince decides to go for Bam, but he tells Rob Devil to close his eyes so he can hide his remote. Meanwhile, Yua refuses to give Bam the remote, and she thinks if he had just selected teammates in the beginning, everyone would have been happy, but Bam thinks it's impossible for everyone to be happy. Yua decides to stop him by force, and she prepares to attack with her flames, but Bam is able to stop her movements, and he takes the remote from her. As he's about to leave, he's interrupted by Prince, but he also stops his movements, and continues on his way. Horang and Han argue about who should become the leader. Horang wants Han to take the role, because he knows Han sees his daughter in Miseng, so he wants to protect her, but Han notes he isn't stupid enough to risk his life over her. He thinks Horang is in love with Goseng, so he should leave the room, but he also says he isn't that stupid, but Han ends up becoming the leader. He goes to Miseng's room, who's alone because Goseng already left. Han knocks on the door, but when she doesn't answer, he starts remembering his daughter, and gets worried about Miseng. He's about to knock down the door, but Miseng mentions Goseng told her she shouldn't open the door to anyone, which is why she also didn't answer the woman who came before him. He tells her he isn't like the woman, but she thinks he's worse, because he tried to make her fail the test. He's about to leave, but she tells him to stay since she's scared, so he decides to sit at her door. He wonders why she's climbing the tower when she's scared of everything, and she notes it's because her parents told her that doing it would make her a respectable person. The woman from before appears, and Han is about to attack her, but she wants to work with him and take Mi-Zhang's room. Han is disgusted by her, and seeing that he isn't going to work with her, the woman shoots fire at him, but he blocks her attack and stabs her hand, and he covers her mouth to stop her from screaming so they don't scare Mi-Zhang. Meanwhile, Go-Sang goes to Wangnin's room and tells him to give her his connector so they can become teammates. Wangnin hesitates to accept, so she gives him her connectors and notes he can do whatever he wants with them. She mentions she was about to give up on climbing the tower, but after seeing how he never gives up, she decided to climb the tower with him. They go back to Go-Sang's room, where they know they need to do something before Bam comes for them, but Han thinks Bam will go after Love, because he thinks no one can defeat him. Meanwhile, Kim tells Prince that someone has killed Rob Devil. They go back to the room to check, and they think it must have been Bam who did it. They are interrupted by two other people, and they mention they have a method to capture Bam. Bam reaches Love, who sees he still hasn't changed his mind about taking the exam alone, so he gives him a test. He notes that FUD consists of people who don't follow the rules, so he can also do whatever he likes with them. He tells him if he can catch the connector fired by the pitching machine in 3 attempts, he can do whatever he wants, but if he can't do it, he will fail the test. He notes that if he wants to give up before his 3 attempts are over, he will be allowed to take the next test with the others, but he mentions he will also try to interfere and might accidentally kill him. The test starts, and Bam stops the connector, but Love decides to kick it away before he can catch it. Before the next attempt, Bam attacks Love, and when Love tries to punch him, he stops his movement for a moment, which allows him to dodge the attack. He realizes Bam is strong, but he isn't powerful enough to face a rancor, and Love sends him flying into a wall. Love reveals that Fug killed his parents, so it's why he wants revenge on Bam. He wonders why Bam joined Fug, so he explains it's because he needs to meet someone. Yue is angry at what Bam did to her, but she thinks he might be a better person than she thought, because he didn't kill anyone. A man named Tin knocks on her door and says he's there on behalf of Prince, but as she opens the door, there's a parasite with him that takes over her body. Meanwhile, Prince goes to retrieve the remote that he hid, but Rob Devil suddenly kicks him, which shocks him because he thought he was dead. He wonders if Kim lied to him, and Rob Devil reveals the whole plan was Kim's idea. Wangnin and the others manage to capture 5 rooms, and only Yue's room remains. He calls Nia to ask him if everything is okay, but he's shocked when Kim answers. He assures Wangnin that Nia let him in, and Wangnin asks Nia if he's okay, but he apologizes to him. He notes that after reaching the 20th floor, he was betrayed by the people he climbed with because he was too weak. An old woman took him in, so he decided to help her and forget about the test. But after a while, Kim started to threaten the woman every day, and he told him if he made all the other regulars fail, the woman's debt would be forgiven. He starts crying and apologizes to Wangnin because he finally found people who believed in him, but he still betrayed them. Wangnin tells him he shouldn't cry because he's fighting for someone he believes in, but Nia gets angry when Kim notes he can't fully erase their debts. He plans on taking the place of Prince, and Nia tells him to give him back his remote, but Kim's underlings hold him in place, and Kim beats him to death. Wangnin promises Kim he's going to kill him, but Kim wonders what he can do when they already have 5 rooms, and Prince's room is also about to be captured by them. Only Yue's room is left, but he also has a plan to capture it. Wangnin leaves to do something about the situation, and Hwoarang decides to go save Nia and Prince. Meanwhile, Love starts the 3rd round, and reminds Bam that if he can't catch the connector, he will fail the test. The pitching machine shoots the connector, and as Bam tries to stop it, Love attacks him again. But he's shocked when Bam uses his own technique against him, but he manages to stop Bam's movements. He prepares to end the test, but Wangnin suddenly arrives, and throws a bomb at them, letting him grab Bam's connector. He tells Bam he will give it to him if he helps him, but Love notes it will result in him failing the test. But he doesn't care, as long as it means Kim also fails the test. Love tries to take the connector by force, but Wangnin mentions Nia was killed by Kim. He starts crying and asks Love if the tower is supposed to fulfill their wishes, or if it's made for people to give up on their dreams. He notes that if the tower allows someone like Kim to climb any further, he will destroy it himself, even if it means he needs to work with the devil. Rob Devil keeps beating up Prince, but Kim shows up and tells Rob Devil to kill him. Hwoarang arrives and punches away one of the men protecting Kim, but he gets pushed back when Yue attacks him with her flames. Hwoarang thinks he will need to kill her, but Bam arrives and kills the parasite inside her body. Rob Devil is about to finish Prince off, but he gets away by turning off the light. Kim runs away, and Hwoarang tells Bam to go after him while he takes care of the situation. He enters the room and tells Rob Devil he will show him the real devil as he transforms his arm and beats him to death. Prince is amazed by Horang, and he tells Prince to give him his remote. Wangnan and Bam catch Kim, and as he tries to attack them, Wangnan kicks him and breaks his arm. Wangnan notes it isn't revenge for him, but it's for Nia and everyone else who suffered because of him. Kim starts to laugh, because he thinks Wangnan just wants reasons to justify his actions. He mentions he was once like him, and he wanted to climb the tower, so he borrowed money to take the test, but before he knew it, he was drowning in debt, which made him work for the company, and one day, the president told him his son was going to climb the tower, so he should do everything in his power to help him. Kim thinks there is no justice in the tower, and there's no reason to hate anyone, so it doesn't matter that he killed a kid. Wangnan gets angry and shoves a bomb into his mouth, but he decides to forgive him, because killing him would just repeat the cycle. Kim thinks Wangnan has no right to forgive him since he didn't do anything wrong, but Wangnan tells him he will become the king of the tower and change everything, so that no one ever ends up like him or Nia. He gives Bam his connector and leaves, and after that, an announcement is made for people who have passed the test. Love apologizes to Augustus for what he did, and offers to resign, but Augustus notes that Bam didn't get hurt, so he doesn't need to quit. After Love leaves, Augustus reports to someone that Wangnan passed the test, just as Fug wanted. Love meets with everyone and apologizes for his actions, so to make up with them, he treats them all to lunch. After that, Bam meets with Wangnan and wonders why he forgave Kim. He mentions it's because he wants to be forgiven as well, because he might also lie and kill to climb the tower in the future. Bam wonders what he wants to change by climbing the tower, so he mentions that everyone currently fights against each other to advance, but he wants to make the tower a place where everyone can laugh together. He asks Bam to accompany him to the next floor, and Bam decides to accept him,